Hello and welcome to Oil Painting My Way. My name's Rob. I hope you're having a great day. Right, this is video sequence number 3. If you've been watching the previous videos, you'll know that I'm actually doing a sequence of videos, basically starting with a skyline of a painting and then gradually working my way through in layers, just so you can see the construction of an actual oil painting and how it basically progresses through all these sequences. We've actually shown at number 1 and number 2 already. So this is number 3. This is actually called Mid-Ground Hills. We've already done the skyline and we've already done some distant hills. So this is basically just some general hills in the mid-ground. So we're gradually working our way forward. So I do hope you enjoy it. Number 3 in the sequence, Mid-Ground Hills.
Hi, so here we are now. We're going to actually put a mid-ground in here, probably another little mountain sort of range, but a lot closer, maybe just two sort of hills, one coming from up here, coming across and down, and then another one overlapping, just sort of to create a sort of valley of some sort. But obviously remember, it's getting closer to us, so it will get a lot lighter and there will be more detail. So what I'm actually going to be doing on here, I'm going to try out some sap green and some yellow ochre. Now I've basically put sort of, I would say 60% sap green, 40% yellow ochre, but I've just mixed it gently. I would say sort of 75% mixed, because it will leave a slightly mottled effect, so you'll get a little bit more tone in and more of a sort of colour variation rather than just a sharp, harsh one colour. So I'm just going to try that out, see what it looks like. But as I say, what we're going to do, maybe from over here, I'm not sure if you can see that, maybe you need to lighten that a little bit. Let's put some more yellow ochre in. So maybe now this is about 50. I'm not sure again if that's showing up very clear. Maybe it's okay. I'd say this is now about, because I've added a little bit more, it's about 50 sap green, yellow ochre. So what we're going to do, this is going to be up higher at this end. Maybe this is somewhere along there, like that. Just as we done previously, you're just filling in the colour underneath, just block it in. Get what's off the brush on there and just blend that in. Soften it away, and afterwards but this is, as I say, another layer, but obviously the layers are going to get broader as they come forward, just as you're going to have more detail as well, and they're going to get a lot lighter because they're closer to you. And then maybe what we got here, maybe, I don't know, let's say maybe we've got one I've just added a little bit more yellow ochre, as you can probably tell, because this side's a little bit lighter. Just fill that in. Again, I'm pressing really hard with this. Just scrub that into the canvas. And bring that across even, just help blend the colours together. Getting the outline, fill that in, and then what we'll do, we'll put a more greener one, sort of a hill, as if it's overlapping these ones. Just need to fill this in a bit more. Again, you're going to put all the detail on this afterwards. But like with any painting, you've got to get your darker colours down before you can show your highlights. It's no good just putting your highlights on straight on, because it just won't work. You have to have your darks to be able to show your lights. Just put a little bit of burnt umber in there, just to help break up that colour. It just makes it a little bit more mottled and just a bit more contrast. Just a little bit of yellow ochre on its own. Again, you're just softening those colours in, just blend them in. And again, you're creating layers. Remember, layers. It's the layers that end up giving you the depth to the actual painting. Again, this little colour I'm putting over the top is just a bit of burnt umber and a bit of sap green mixed together. Right, what we're going to do now, I'm just going to get some sap green and just see what the sap green looks like on its own, maybe. This is just pure sap green. But you will probably have to keep cleaning your brush because it will start picking up what's underneath. Let's just fill that in first before I start getting the contamination with the other colours. And then what we'll do is we'll decide where it's going to go. Maybe bring that out a bit more. Again, just pure sap green. What I'm actually going to do here, I'm just going to get a tissue, just scroll it up a little bit and just rub around that area. Just to soak up some of the oil and the paint that's on the canvas there. Also helps with the blending, but it just soaks it up so you just don't start ending up going into mixing a load of mud by putting one layer over the top of another, over the top of another, and so on. Basically what you've done, the paint's already on the canvas here and it's actually stained the canvas, but by you just rubbing it, you're just taking that surface layer off. The colour will still be in the canvas because it's been stained. And what we'll do with this, we'll just bring that across. Start to blend that together, the colour underneath. Again, try and remember, don't just go in circular motions because it will look weird once it's actually dry, but just try and remember the direction of the actual mountain range when you're actually doing this sort of thing, and try and pull, because it just helps with the brush strokes afterwards. When it's actually dried, you'll see. Again, we will be putting more highlights on this afterwards. Just blend that back. What to do right for this is maybe sort of fill that in a bit. just going to be wiping off the brush again, just taking a little excess off of here. It basically stains the canvas. So let me just get the tissue again. Okay, just go around in a circular motion towards the bottom. Just take that excess off. I want to do a little bit of yellow ochre, a bit of raw sienna, maybe a tiny little bit of Indian yellow, and again we're just going to go in with the highlights. It's going to be a little bit brighter this time because, as I said, it's closer to you. We just start blending. Remember to blend it all in, soften it all up. That was the yellow ochre. Let's go for a little bit of raw sienna. Again, remember what way the mountain is actually going, or the hill, or just keep those directions. It just helps with the composition. Let's go back and put a little bit of maybe going to use a little bit of this mix that I had left from the sky previously, which I managed to save. Just a tiny little bit, nothing too dramatic, just on those certain points. Remember, it's going to be darker towards the bottom of the mountain because it's further away from the light source. Just get that on there and then blend. darken this side up a little bit. A little bit of burnt umber. Just vary your colours when you're doing this, just to get the tones and the contrast, just so it looks nice and even. Build up of paint there. Get rid of that. Again, we're just going to put a bit of a highlight on the top of these ones because they are much closer. Twinkle on the end of that one. Nothing too much. Hopefully you can just sort of see it all coming together. Excuse me a minute, I'll just wipe the brush. Hopefully you'll get a bit more detail there, as you can see. Then what we're going to do, maybe put some distant trees here, just to block off this piece of, looks like redundant sort of like land there, but we'll just put a few little bushes and trees along here. Maybe just lighten up the edge or something, I don't know. Well, what should we do? Let me just change brushes. Let me just get a tiny little bit of white. Maybe just soften that. I should have done this before I put that colour on, but don't panic. You can always get around it. Just a tiny little bit of white. And again, the more you rub, the more paint comes off. It gets lighter and lighter and then blends itself in anyway, as you can see. It just gives a little bit more depth, breaks the colour up. Just softens that bit of land in the background. Just say this is very distant, so there's not going to be a lot of detail in there. Just put a little bit more highlight maybe along that edge. Again, just helps to soften. There's a lot more shadows and contrast showing up now, as I said, because it's getting further towards you. You're going to see a lot more than you do on the distant hills. Let me just soften that back edge on this bit here again. Again, forgot to do this earlier, but don't panic. Basically all you're doing is just keeping on touching up everything and getting your tones right. We might even put a big tree here or something. You know, if you're worried that something is not quite looking right, you can always put a big tree in front of it. It's not a problem. We know that the paint is behind it. We know that part of the mountain is there still. It's not gone anywhere. It's just got a big tree there. Okay. I'll just highlight that a little bit more. And just soften it up with a dry brush if it looks too harsh. Just remember, it's all paint, it's very forgiving, very forgiving. Okay, so that is your mid-ground. Then what we're going to possibly do is just put maybe some small bushes along here. Let's stick with the sap green that I had earlier on. Again, just remember this is fairly distant, it's not the close-up part, so you're just looking for a rough sort of shape. It's just breaking up between this background and the one in front of it, but it's a small tree line. Again, detail's not that important at the moment. Just turning the brush as you're just applying this. Maybe there's a row of bushes or something. Just keep turning the brush, because obviously the paint is actually building up on the edge there, but if you just keep twisting and turning the brush, it'll eventually come off in all different shapes and patterns. And you'll end up with basically a pattern that hopefully will just reflect some distant trees and foliage of some sort. Remember, don't keep them all the same size. Bushes are not all the same size. Some are tall, some are thin, some are fat. Just break up that. Maybe go up the edge of the hill slightly. Just as a bit of hillside foliage. As I say, just varying up and down, different heights. You can alter the colour slightly, not too much, as I say, because this is not up close. It's closer obviously than these ones, but it's still far enough away that you're not going to see a lot of detail. You're basically just looking at distant sort of foliage. You might want to just put a touch of highlight on some of the more prominent ones. Not a lot, as I say, because if you put too much on, it completely spoil it. You're just letting the viewer know that there's enough light, because the object is far enough forward, but just enough light to pick up maybe a hint on the top. Let me just get a bit of raw sienna, just a tiny little bit of raw sienna, just on some of these. Not a lot, as I say, you just that tiny little bit. And then just blend it out. You can hardly see it, but it's just enough to let somebody know, if they look close enough, that there is a few little shadows. Darks and lights, just remember your darks and your lights. It's fine, just a raw sienna. You won't need to go into a lot of detail with other colours. That'll be fine for the moment. Then what we'll do, we'll put another tree line maybe next, and we'll get closer and decide what we're going to do with the foreground here. So yeah, that'll be okay for the moment, just for our midground. We can always come back later and just touch a few little bits and pieces up, but for the moment I think that's fine.
Okay, here we are back again. That was the sequence number 3, Midground Hills. I do hope you enjoyed that, and hope you're following along with the sequence and you can see how this is progressing all the way through. So watch out for the next video, which should be coming along soon. Please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when I post another video, once you've hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification button, which is the bell with the little symbol next to it. Then that will notify you the next time a video that I put up goes live, and then you can help follow along and join in the sequence. So again, please thumbs up and subscribe. Really appreciate it. It just helps me produce more videos and know what you actually want from the content to actually put out for future videos. So this has been All Painting My Way. My name's Rob. Enjoy the rest of your day.